Hey folks, this is Kalani. Patch 11.2 is now live, but there's still a bit of time before the new season starts to get your characters all ship-shape for their new gearing adventures. There are quite a few things that you can do right now that will make the start of Season 3 much easier, and you'll be able to hop into harder content to get the best rewards right away. So let's go over the best ways to prepare for the start of Season 3 and what you should get done before the weekly reset rolls around. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. The first thing that everyone will want to do to prepare for Season 3 is to get your Reshiram's artifact cloak and upgrade it as far as you can. The cloak is not optional if you want to take part in most types of seasonal content. Not only does it provide you with a huge power boost, but you will need the cloak if you want to access the new and interesting parts in delves, which can speed up your runs quite significantly, and the cloak is a hard requirement for entering the raid, and it is used in several important raid mechanics. So you need the cloak for sure. Your Reshiram's cloak is going to come from completing the first 3 story chapters of the main campaign for patch 11.2, so just work your way through the story quests until you've completed the Desert Power chapter and unlocked your Reshiram's cloak. You can upgrade your cloak at Overlook Zoshul in Koresh. It's around about here on your map. You should have an important quest over there called Wrapped Up. That quest introduces you to the NPC who upgrades your cloak by unlocking these talent options. Each upgrade is going to cost you 3 ethereal strands, and we're given the first 3 for free. So go ahead and unlock that first talent option, which will give your cloak the special proc effect, which is a huge part of its overall power, and each upgrade also increases the item level of your cloak. Now another important quest that you want to complete is called Another World. This one introduces you to phase diving, which unlocks a lot of new content as well, but these 2 important quests will also unlock your alt skip, so you don't have to redo the story content if you don't want to. So if you want to get your alts caught up quickly, make sure you've completed both the Wrapped Up quest and the Another World quest. Now we can actually get one more upgrade for your cloak this week, which takes it up to item level 707. You're going to need 3 more ethereal strands. These come from a wide variety of content, but most of it is not available until next week. The easiest way to get 3 more ethereal strands for the next upgrade is to just run 3 delves. You should get 1 ethereal strand per delve you run, so complete 3 delves and upgrade your cloak to the next level. And then the last thing you'll want to do to get your cloak all ready for next week is to upgrade your fiber socket. You got to choose a fiber gem thing from the quest that rewarded you with the cloak, and you can buy them from the cloak upgrade NPC as well if you want different stats. These fibers allow you to choose what secondary stats are on the cloak, and you can change them around as often as you want. You just need to right click it and it'll pop back out, and then you can put another one in. But these starting fibers aren't the best option. You can get pure fibers that provide even more secondary stats, which give your cloak a nice little boost. The recipe to create these pure fibers comes from Renown level 5 with the new Koresh faction. So if you're a tailor, you can farm the rep yourself, get the recipe and craft whatever pure fibers you want, or you can head on over to the crafting order clerks and put in a crafting order for your pure fibers instead. A lot of players already have reached Renown level 5 and unlocked these recipes. I know a guildie of mine had the recipe on day 1 of the patch, so you should be able to put in a public crafting order to get these fibers made for you. The pure fibers also don't have any different ranks or quality, it's just one item, so you can buy the cheapest materials and set your order off. You may need to provide a tip of 500 or 1000 gold to get your crafts made faster. You'll want to double check what other public orders are in there and how much gold they are offering, because if your tip is too low, you could be waiting a long time for your crafting order. With mine, it was done pretty much instantly, so it's going to depend on who is looking at the crafting order window as well. You can also send a guild order if anyone in your guild has the recipes, or find someone in trade chat to make them specifically. Either way you do it, you should get a pure fiber to maximize your cloak's effectiveness. It's worth about an extra 600 secondary stats, so that's pretty good for something that's so cheap and easy to get. The next thing I would do is to unlock the higher tiers of delves. We start with up to tier 4 available, so you'll need to run a tier 4 delve to unlock tier 5, and then just keep going until you unlock at least tier 8 delves. Tier 8 delves are where your weekly vault rewards cap out for delves, so that's what you'll be running if you want to maximize your gearing potential next week. You get additional crest rewards next week for tiers 9, 10, and 11, so they are worth unlocking if you can clear them and you have the time, but they aren't necessarily a priority. Now, while we cannot do bountiful delves this week, we can start collecting restored coffer keys to use next week. There are a few ways to get your hands on these, and we can actually get more than just the usual 4 per week. Weekly caches have now been split into 2 different types, and you'll need to read them carefully to see which reward you're going to get. The important weekly quests in Dornagal and the new weekly quests in 11.2 will reward you with a cache that contains a whole restored coffer key for the first 4 you open. Right now you should be able to pick up the World Soul weekly quest, the Titan Disc weekly quest, as well as the Delve weekly quest in Dornagal. All 3 of those will reward you with a restored coffer key. The Special Assignment World quest in Crests also rewards you with a cache that contains a restored coffer key, so getting those 4 caches will give you your weekly 4 keys pretty easily. And then the older weekly events have a separate cache reward system, but you can get the reward for the first 4 of each type of cache. So the first 4 of these caches you open will contain key shards. Each cache contains 50 shards, and you can combine 100 shards into another coffer key. So if you complete 4 older events like Theatre Troop, Spreading the Light, or older Special Assignment World quests, you can get up to 200 key shards, which is just another 2 keys to add to your collection. You can also get key shards from other sources, including world quests, so it's always worth checking what the world quests are rewarding whenever they reset. And then it's also worth checking the older Reputation Quartermasters, just in case you've forgotten to pick up some rewards or you're playing a new character or alt for this patch. Every reward, whether it's valorstones, crests, or restored coffer keys, gets updated to the new season and patch. So if you haven't picked up any of these rep rewards yet, you can actually get a huge influx of gear upgrading materials and some more restored coffer keys to use next week. I'm going into next week with 8 coffer keys ready to go, and I'll be able to pick up more after the weekly reset. That's a lot of champion gear to help gear up my hunter super fast from bountiful delves. Completing the important weekly quests in Dornagal will also reward you with your first Fractured Spark of Starlight. These are the new crafting sparks used in Season 3 to craft up to item level 720 gear, so they are going to be incredibly powerful. You can get your Fractured Spark from any important weekly quest, and you should see this new weekly activity reward listed that shows it will reward you with a Fractured Spark. You can get 1 more Fractured Spark this week from almost any endgame content. I got mine when running delves to unlock the higher tiers, but you should be able to get them from dungeon runs as well. The maximum we can get this week is 2 Fractured Sparks, and you can check that by looking at the new Starlight Spark Dust currency in your currency tab. Combine those 2 Fractured Sparks together and you'll get your first Spark of Starlight. You can use that in any high-end crafting recipe to get an item level 691 piece of gear this week, and then as you start earning runed and gilded crests in Season 3, you can upgrade it to item level 720, which is pretty huge. Now you can craft this piece of gear right away if you want to, but I would probably wait for next week at the very least so you can get some decent gear from other sources first. It's also worth mentioning that every class has boots from the raid that interact with your cloak, which boosts its power even further, so I would not craft boots in Season 3. We also have the belt from the previous patch, so I wouldn't craft a belt either, and your cloak slot is pretty much just occupied for the rest of the expansion, so we're kind of limited to jewelry and bracers for the most part for crafted gear, so I definitely think it's worth holding onto your spark for next week at least. The next step would be gearing up as much as possible so you can jump into the harder content next week. The better gear you have, the easier the raid will be and the faster you can push Mythic Plus dungeons, or just the easier time you'll have in those tier 8 to 11 bountiful delves. We have a couple of gearing up options in this first week. To start with, everyone should go kill the new world boss in Koresh. You are guaranteed a piece of 688 champion gear on your first kill of the week. The only problem is that you aren't guaranteed a piece of gear you can actually use. The gear is warbound, however, so you can trade it across your characters to an alt that can use it. Keep killing the world boss every week and you will end up with a nice pile of warbound gear that will make gearing up your alts much easier in the future. World quests can reward you with adventurer gear, which can be upgraded up to item level 678 using weathered crests and valorstones, so that's an option if you have some lower item level pieces of gear you need to replace. After that, we're looking to dungeons. Heroic dungeons drop item level 665 adventurer gear, so that's another easy source of adventurer gear if you need it, and you can queue into heroic dungeons so you don't have to worry about setting up the groups manually. Heroic dungeons are also a great repeatable source of weathered crests and valorstones. Mythic 0 dungeons will give you some of the best gearing options in this first week. They drop item level 681 gear, and that can be upgraded up to 691 just by using carved crests, which is the highest item level gear we can reliably get right now. Mythic 0 dungeons have a weekly lockout, so you can only get gear from each dungeon once in this first week. So if you really want to get the best gear possible right now, make sure you run each dungeon at least once on Mythic 0 before the weekly reset rolls around. So we have a few ways to get gear and crests, but should you actually be upgrading your gear this week, or should you save your crests and valorstones for next week? Well, I think it largely depends on you and how you plan to gear up when the season starts, but for the vast majority of players, I would say anything that requires weathered crests or carved crests, you can pretty much just upgrade whatever you want. Those items will be replaced fairly quickly if you're farming up a lot of champion gear, and those crests are not going to be useful for very long. So I would say feel free to spend any weathered or carved crests on whatever you want. I would try to start next week with as close to 2,000 valorstones as possible though, and I would save any crimson valorstones you have or any other item that creates valorstones when used. You can stock up on the actual currency to 2,000 and leave those items in your bag for an emergency valorstone source when you start upgrading your gear. There is another way to use your weathered crests though. If you visit the enchanted crest vendor in Dornagal, you can trade 30 weathered crests in for an enchanted crest, which will allow you to craft gear up to item level 675, which is just shy of fully upgraded adventurer gear. The great part about using your weathered crests this way is that it doesn't cost any valorstones, only the weathered crests. So this is a great way to fill in your lower item level slots very easily, and it's particularly great for alts that don't have great gear to begin with. It's also worth mentioning that the Nightfall gear vendors down in Hallowfall were updated with this patch as well. You can now trade your tokens in for Season 3 Adventurer gear, which can again be upgraded up to item level 678. So if you have some of those tokens left over, or you just need to replace one or two pieces of gear really badly, that vendor might be worth looking into as well. We can also start filling up the Great Vault this week for some shiny rewards on reset day. We can't do anything for the raid row, but we can fill up the dungeon row and the open world row fairly easily. For the dungeon row, the best rewards we can get are from running Mythic 0 dungeons, which will give you item level 691 loot in your weekly vault. We only have 6 dungeons to run on Mythic 0 right now, so if you want to max out this row, you will need to run an extra 2 dungeons that won't give you any loot, so keep that in mind. For the Delve row, the max rewards come from running tier 8 delves, which provides you with item level 694 gear in your vault. You'll need to run 8 tier 8 delves to max out that row, and if you do everything, that will give you 6 chances to get something decent on reset day. Remember that the vault can contain tier gear in any reward slot, so it's usually worth doing as much as you can, but I would at least make sure you have 1 reward in the dungeon row and 1 reward in the delve row as a minimum. If you are returning to the game after a break, or you just didn't get around to it in patch 11.17, I would also make sure you have your disc belt unlocked and fully upgraded going into next week. The belt is still available, and it's from the same rough location in Dornagal near the Delve headquarters, except the quests themselves have changed. Now all you need to do is run a delve to get the belt initially, and run 1 more delve for each upgrade item. If you're unlocking your delve tiers, you will be running enough delves to complete this entire chain anyway, so if you don't have that belt yet, be sure you pick up those quests and turn them in before you run each new delve tier. The belt may be old content at this point, but you can still upgrade it to to item level 701, making it a higher item level than most gear you can acquire in this first week, and the special effects mean we will probably be keeping this belt for a long time regardless of item level. The Circe's Circlet Ring was still some classes' best in slot item towards the end of Season 2, so this belt might stick around longer than you think, so it is definitely worth picking up for sure. So, to recap, get your cloak from the story quests, upgrade it, and get your pure fiber socket. Unlock your higher tiers of delves for next week, make sure you have the belt from patch 11.17 upgraded, collect as many coffer keys as you can be bothered to get, gear up as much as you want, get your first crafting spark, and unlock some rewards in the weekly vault. That's pretty much everything I would recommend you do to get ready for the start of Season 3, so that's it for this video. How are you preparing your characters for the new season, and how many weekly vault slots are you aiming to have ready for reset day? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find links in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.